Rick Burgess, you run two companies, Forms Logic and Prime Short-Term Credit. We will discuss both of those. Let's begin with Forms Logic. Why did you start Forms Logic? What gaps in the market is it aiming to fill? And what are the full range of its products and services?
Yeah, a lot going on in that question, but thanks for having me, Chris. Why did we start Forms Logic? We had a company previous to this that'll impact our second part of this question, but we found out that when we did paperwork internally in our company, we did a lot of the same data over and over and over again on different forms for other companies, right? So nobody would take my form, they would always want their forms, right? So that gave us the ability to build a little piece of software that would just redundantly put data on everything. Fast forward, we were selling into insurance companies and broker dealers and RIAs. And at some point, they realized we were doing a lot of paperwork and they asked us to help them. So we said, sure. And the long story is, my partner said yes, I said no, because if you've ever done financial service paperwork, it's horrible. But we did our first client over a decade ago, and it started as a hobby company for a long time. And the gaps we were trying to fill are very simple. Paperwork hasn't come a long way since it started. So the fun part is, you put something, a PDF on, you fill it out. It's still a piece of paper, just electrified, right? So what we've learned over the years is we were a forms company. Now we're more of a data company. So when you're filling out forms, every little box has data in it and it pulls back and I can put it in a database. And more importantly, I can apply it to other forms, other processes, other reports, other things. And that makes that data useful. So from that standpoint, the thing we're trying to do is just empower people to use the data that they're collecting out of their own operations, right? Financial services where we're pointing because it's just so broken. Um, there's only a few people out there. We're one of, I think, three or four. And there's only a couple doing it to the scale we're doing it. So we actually have two sides of my business. One is new account opening. We open up, Miss and Mrs. Jones come in, they want to open up a Roth IRA. We open that up, we help do the paperwork, we process it through to the products, the custodians, all of it, the insurance companies. So right now we manage a couple 100,000 forms, and that's all in the back office of broker dealers and RIAs and some insurance companies. The other side is Migrator, which is our transition tool. Advisor moves from one firm to another, they take all their clients with them. Well, that new firm requires all that paperwork to be done. So what we do, and we do it better than anybody else, and I would love anyone to come knock me off that statement mountain, is we can take a client and start moving them from wherever they're unhappy to without even knowing where they're going yet. And that's just because we have a good grasp of data. First name of a client is going to find its way on a first name of some form somewhere. And I don't need to know what the form is to start the process, right? So that's a pretty amazing thing. Um, Industry wide, we're doing a transition from signing a contract to getting them delivered paperwork in about 32 days, which is almost half of what other people are doing it. We're doing it at a cost that's extremely reasonable. So really, from Forms Logic side, we're basically making it so operations can do their job, not worry about paperwork as much during the new account opening side of things. And on the other side, we're helping advisors move from firm to firm in a very fast, efficient way that takes the stress out of potentially the largest transaction they'll ever do in their life. Bigger than their houses, bigger than cars, bigger than any of that. Does that answer that first question for
Concisely and clearly, thank you.
you?
All right, now, prime short-term credit. How does prime short-term credit provide collateralized lending, and what are the prevailing trends in the collateralized lending space?
Again, broad questions. A lot of answer in there. Um, when we had that original company I mentioned the first time in that first question, it was when we sold it, we were matching debt, right? And we were being a broker, a commercial broker, which meant someone needed a loan, someone wanted a loan, I'd put them together and I'd get this little fee for doing it. So when we sold that company, My partner basically, Forms Logic was the IT side of things. Prime was the, hey, we have a little bit of money from the sale. We want to go out and now be that lender. So what we did was we looked around, we tried to find the most boring thing we could find. And really what we settled on was financing fix and flips. So real estate lending, but not to people that live in houses. That's, residential, right? And they have rights and all those things. So we did it with commercial, which is, fix and flipping houses. So we become sort of partners to people that want to do that. Um, what we do is we own the house while other people are fixing it. Then when we go to sell it, they get the profits, we have interest. So from that standpoint, we built it as a secure thing, right? And collateral. But it's different than collateral, it's ownership. So that's something you think about. Why do people use us? Is because we can work and operate much faster than banks. They're going to pay more, but a bank might take a couple months to get through something, and you got to qualify for all this, all these things. I'm looking at the asset, right? I'm underwriting the asset, and the people are secondary, obviously, but they have to know what they're doing and all these things. So, what are some of the trends? If you ever heard the term shadow banking, it's massive. And what shadow banking is basically when companies or transactions need to get something done, there's private companies, private individuals, there's all these people and things that facilitate transactions. It's not like a registered thing where you can go see these transactions, right? And most of the time, those transactions will end up in a bank or end up somewhere, but it's about speed and the nuance of a deal. So things you're going to see in the future is shadow banking is never going away. By no stretch of the imagination is it going to diminish. And then on the real estate side where we play, President Trump just tweeted or something that, he's trying to get it so big companies like BlackRock and Blackstone can't buy neighborhoods and turn them into rentals and things like that. And again, that's great for people that I deal with that can do one house, two houses at a time and not compete against neighborhoods. And it might help house prices stabilize a little bit, which would be better for everybody because you don't have someone with $1 trillion buying a whole neighborhood.
One more question. Is
Sure.
prime short-term credit the type of thing that a financial advisor's client might want to know about if they were active in the real estate space?
It could, by all means. I mean, we have a registered fund that's going in the BD space and RIA space. So, if there's two sides to your question. One is financial advisors can contact us, find us, and we would set up an agreement with them to have them sell it to their clients. But the other side is if a financial advisor had a client that was a flipper and they wanted to talk to us, they can be introduced to us, and I'm sure they'd find your details and you'll route them back to me. But the one thing I always laugh about is people that love real estate, they love real estate. They don't like stocks, they don't like bonds. Real estate people love real estate. And it's very hard to get anyone off that fence.
Rick, this is very interesting. I think a lot of people have learned a lot. I know I have. Thanks for your time.
Pleasure was all mine, Chris. Thanks for having me.